This chart is something that has occurred over the last 30 years, and this chart speaks to the fact that we as a country have declined in our ability to compete internationally. And this is something that all governments within Canada are very focused on. And it's a big issue. And our role that we have to play is that more than 75% of the reason why we have had a decline in productivity has been lack of investment in ICT, what policymakers call ICT. But the big part of ICT is what we're talking about over the next 2 days. That's why this is so important and so relevant for our country. One of the slides that I think is very powerful for people to realize. Many people think that China is just rising up now. The reality is that China used to be 50% of the world GDP. So it's not rising up, it's just simply returning to where it was on the world stage. 3 centuries ago, it missed something. It missed the Industrial Revolution. That had a dramatic impact on the quality of life and standard of living of 1/3 of the population of the world. So we don't have to look very far for examples of what happens when you miss out on a big trend. And so I would ask you, and I would ask you if you could ask people that you speak to, what's going to happen to Canada if we miss even a part of the information trend? Just a part of it. We will be diminished as a country. That's pretty easy to say. The other thing that I think works really well, one of my challenges as I go across the world is to explain to people just what is social networking and Twitter and what have you, other than just people talking to each other. Why is this different than just, a corner conversation? Well, it is different because of crowdsourcing and other things like that, because this is about productivity. And I've used an example, and I like to use Canadian examples, as you know, so all over the world, I've explained what Barrick Gold did 3 years ago. Barrick Gold had a whole bunch of geological surveys. You can look this up on the web. Barrick Gold had a whole bunch of geological surveys that they were being, told internally, etc., that, well, maybe there isn't any more minerals in there. So maybe we got to go buy more land, etc. So they had the bright idea of, well, why don't we take those geological surveys and put them up on the web and run a contest? So they ran a contest and gave out $500,000 in prizes in the first year and gained $3 billion in new discoveries. That is an example of incredible productivity. And it's crowdsourcing. It's bringing people together, all the amateur prospectors in the world. They're not walking around now with, sort of a steel tray and going into a stream looking for gold dust. They're actually on the web, and they're using their brains. And that's a dramatic way of illustrating how what we do enhances productivity in a resource industry that's central to Canada's future. We must address issues like security and privacy. That matters to each and every one of us. And social networking is challenging our society's view of what is private, what's secure, etc. And that's a conversation we've got to have. Because what I have found throughout the world, countries, major organizations, major corporations, this is bedeviling them. This is something that we have to get the balance right in our country. It is the conversation going on throughout the world. I can attest to it. 52 cities later, everyone is trying to get this balance right. Because we all know intuitively, if we go too far on either side of that balance, we'll have unfortunate outcomes.